Now, based on new industry data from the Nigerian Communications Commission, Nigeria's active mobile subscriptions declined marginally by 0.07% to 220.71 million in August, compared with 220.86 million in the previous month of July. And that indicates the country's mobile subscriptions declined by 145,026 in the month of August. This decline follows a modest uptick in the previous month, following 4 consecutive declines. And Amazon just declared that it will be opening up shop in South Africa, a second specific African market for e-commerce. But the group's focus is on Africa's rapidly expanding cloud services sector, just like its other major IT competitors, Microsoft and Oracle. One of the areas of the world where a sizable amount of demand for cloud services is anticipated to originate is Africa. The continent is seeing a 25% to 30% annual growth in demand for cloud computing services, according to digital research consultancy Xalam Analytics. Now, joining me to discuss all this further is the FinTech Friday here on GBR. Fisayo Durojaye, General Partner, the Fraudsters Advisory. Good to have you. Good morning. Let's start with this.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. It's good to have you here. Let's start with Rishi Sunak and that statement. You were listening to that soundbite and you were nodding that you think this is the way to put in the safety checks before we all put our hands on AI.
Yes, artificial intelligence is exciting, but it's also very scary, right? Because the data in which AI is built, is user generated, So as we continue to evolve, right, there are many interests in the future of the world, as it were. So it could be, like he said, terrorists can use artificial intelligence to do anything they want to do. Fraud can be perpetrated using the same platform, or even subtle things like bias. Today people use ChatGPT, and of course I use ChatGPT also for brainstorming sometimes, and I've had conversations around, just basic things around, say, gender, for instance, and how the response, has been between myself and, say, ChatGPT, for instance. But that's even an harmless conversation. This could get to a point where, people are being outrightly misled, by the responses that they get from AI. That's even just conversational. Yeah. But of course, like I said, I think the doomsday scenario is where humans lose control of AI totally. Meaning that AI, acts on its own without prompting, and we lose the ability to rein it in, and that is the biggest risk that we face.
That we face. The AI is a game changer. I'm sure everyone is looking at that. You see this as a major disruptor. Given the rapid evolution of AI technologies, how can the world adapt and stay current with emerging AI Safety Institute?
Yeah, so like I said, I think that it's similar to the way international politics is being designed around, say, global conflicts, right? Things around nuclear weapon. There's a reason why Nigeria cannot enrich its uranium, but the US can, right? So at some point, I believe AI will have to get to that level to say, some people have to not research into this part of AI at all, so that we know exactly the risks that are involved in there. And then, of course, everyone is aware of the global risk. I think a global regulatory body, in which many nations are probably a part of, has to be the way to go.
Do you think that's what Rishi Sunak was talking about as a safety institute?
Yes. So I read the article from Reuters, and of course, it said that yes, they have invited people. The US is involved. But said they invited China, and China declined. So I knew, there's a problem. There's a problem already, right? So it means that if China being whether we like it or not, now a global superpower, as much as possible, is declining to collaborate with the West, on AI safety. It gives me
it's also a lot of worry.
And concern.
What's the current state of cloud market in Africa? What's the size and what's the growth trajectory that you're looking at?
Like you said, we're seeing 25 to 30% growth in demand for AI, and of course globally. I said AI, cloud computing.
Cloud,
right?
Yes.
North America is more or less mature. The US had a head start. China, they are getting to that point, and of course, cloud computing is also becoming an area of diplomatic role, because Chinese companies are worried about US companies storing their data with Google or with AWS. And of course, African companies are like, I can't store my data with Alibaba, for instance, because they still have their own AI. I mean, their own cloud
technology, and they were scared we're scared of each other.
Again, that's the problem, because the future we're getting into is an information future. So we are seeing data breaches, cyber attacks, all of those things.
Somebody wants to protect.
Someone wants to protect their data. Privacy is becoming
a major issue.
A major issue.
But again, is the cloud market, what factors do you think is contributing to the rapid growth of cloud market in Africa? Which countries are leading here?
In Africa, it has to be South Africa largely.
And why?
Of course, is advanced technology. So because, again, what cloud does is that it moves your capital expenditure to operating okay, I'll explain that. So typically, back in the days, we used to have what called server rooms, where we put ACs.
I remember. Server rooms, yes. With all the hardware.
With all the hardware stacked together. Exactly.
Yes.
So now we're saying that we don't need those server rooms again. All our data are now stored in, another server room, but of course you're able to access it.
An invisible one.
Cloud. Well, it's not quite invisible, because it's actually a physical data center somewhere. Right? But this time around, you don't have to create your own. So it means that we are all sharing the same infrastructure that's being managed by, say, AWS or Amazon or Azure by Microsoft, or what's it called, Oracle.
And a few of those guys are building data centers in Nigeria as well.
I mean, yes.
I've seen new investments.
So even Nigerian companies have their data center. So Main One has a data center. Rack Center is a data center here. So again, the data conversation is already ongoing. In fact, even the Nigerian banking system, the central bank is weary of Nigerian storing Nigerian banking data on an overseas cloud storage.
I know exactly. A big bank in Africa whose entire data center is in Europe, in France, for example.
Well,
yes.
So those things are a source of concern for data. So again, while we know we're seeing more digitalization, and of course, as we're seeing more digitalization, we're seeing more use of cloud storage system, and that's what is driving the growth, particularly because again, the US is more or less has reached its peak, as it were. So Africa seems to be...
Asia as well.
Asia is getting there. Of course, China is a very huge market. India is a very huge market. Southeast Asia, Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam. I mean, those are big countries that are also doing strides in there. But of course, Africa seems to have not scratched the surface as much compared to some of these.
So there's still a lot of room there for investment and innovations.
Yes, and that's why these companies are building their data centers on the continent, because so they can work around the rules around where you store your data.
I'm interested that basic things like mobile subscription for telephone in Nigeria is just some of this conversation is declining, and I'm wondering whether we've reached that peak. Are we still talking to each other?
I mean, so for mobile subscription, I think that teledensities, I mean, we have according to data, we have over 200 million.
Yes, about 220 somewhere.
I mean, mobile phone lines. How many adults we have in Nigeria? Maybe about 150. So again, many people have dual SIM. I mean, I have two SIM cards on my phone.
I have one.
You have one, okay. So you have a single point of failure. So when this one fails, I'm able to switch to another one. And of course, they're different. So that's what people do. But right now, I think we are getting to that point where almost all networks are getting to that point of stability. There's little disruption in their services as compared to when we started, when people just have 3 or 4 lines at the beginning. But now people are just ignoring maybe one of their lines and of course letting that expire, and that's what it is. So I guess the area of growth for them now has to be transfer, meaning that people moving, porting as it's called in Nigeria, moving from one provider to another. So rather than looking for new subscribers as well. Or of course, maybe there's a case for new subscriber, given Nigeria's young population. As they continue to get older, maybe new ones will start coming in. But of course, the older ones will start, leaving the scene as well. So I guess it will balance out as we go on. As
go. All right, thank you so much, Fisayo Durojaye. It's good to have you bright and early.
Thank you for having me.
Friday. Thank you. It's a Tech Friday here on Global Business Report.